Hey, women entrepreneurs, ready to turn your big ideas into reality? At CIBC, we believe in empowering women to lead, innovate, and thrive, and we're cheering you on every step of the way. Discover the CIBC Women Entrepreneurs Hub. Connect with inspiring mentors, swap stories with fellow entrepreneurs, and access resources made just for you. Because every business is unique, and you don't have to do it alone. Whether you're just starting out or taking your business to the next level, CIBC is here to support you. Visit CIBC.com/womenentrepreneurs and find out how CIBC can help your business soar.
Welcome to the Startup Women Podcast. Today's guest is Bhargavi Varma, founder of Brown Girl Angels. Brown Girl Angels is a global collective of South Asian women and angel investors, venture capitalists, and founders. Bhargavi is on a mission to increase financial equity for women founders, build community and investor education, and amplify representation. Through thought leadership, community, and candid amplification of the lived experiences of South Asian women, Bhargavi is bridging the gap in angel investing by mobilizing South Asian women to become angel investors. Bhargavi is also the mind and voice behind Brown Girls Money Moves, the first ever newsletter by and for South Asian women, another gesture progressing inclusion in the investment space. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm such a fan of you. I'm such a fan of you. Seriously.
The feeling is mutual.
Oh, thank you. And I love that phrase you said, candid amplification. We are in a time and a need for that. I love that phrase.
I'm so excited.
I'm borrowing that. It's good.
Feel free. We'll just send you the bio of what you do after. I've actually had that too on a podcast. I'm like, can you send that to me? Because that's the best I've ever been introduced. And
that's a skill.
Sometimes you need someone else to give the flowers too, right?
I mean, cut to the woman who charges the $50,000 to name people's babies. This could be your new thing.
Profession. Yeah. Absolutely.
Always thinking business.
So what we want to do on this show is really get into the more, I would say, unsexy conversations. Mm-hmm. Sometimes when we hear these founder stories after the fact, it sounds really nicely tied up in a bow, but we all know that behind the scenes, sometimes there's moments that just don't make it into the story because they're not that interesting and they're kind of sad to talk about or maybe really stressful times. So that's the kind of stuff we want to get into today.
I'm so excited for that because I think we are in a time where the glam is glammed and we need the real.
Yeah, and I think a lot more people are starting businesses and they're getting into it and going, whoa, what is this? Yeah. Is this what I signed up for?
Where's my fabulous founder dinner? And it's like, wait, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that happens before that.
Yeah.
This is it.
So I would love if you can take us back. Where did the idea first come from for Brown Girl Angels?
It came from a personal experience of making my first angel investment, cobbling my way through making my first angel investment, unsexy, sitting there trying to find information on everything from the mechanics, so like the paperwork to the legal to, even the deal flow, and cut to a few angel investments in, looking for other communities or women that shared the same investment thesis, which is just fancy words for what I want to invest in as an angel investor, and realizing that there was I usually say white space, but I'm so on brand with Brown Girl Angels, so brown space.
Yeah.
And realizing that, wait, this didn't exist. There was not a South Asian community for women who angel invest, much less for women in finance. And that was the initial thought of like, well, if it doesn't exist, it should. So who's going to build this?
Yeah. And what was really the first step you took to make the business real? Because I think for so many of us, what we see and feel as that first step looks really different. Some people it's a website, sometimes it's getting their first client. What was that first step for you?
I would say the first step, and actually it's now this defunct Slack group that still exists somewhere in like the archives. The archive Slack is a very scary page with cobwebs.
The graveyard.
Yeah, it's just good old fashioned reaching out to your immediate community, reaching out to friends. Hey, know anybody who's angel investing? Hey, I'm looking into, and it was just those initial conversations when I did my own research, Google late at night or whatever. It was never late at night. It's always like multitasking while doing 5 things on a school run.
Right.
And looking for something like that. And it's the first step was, I think, just, well, does this exist? And I'm unaware of it. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't, has anybody else looked for this? And that eventually cut to telling a few girlfriends, turned into a Slack group that it was just about 6 or 7 of us. And it was actually there that I thought, well, I mean, there's 6 or 7 of us in a Slack group. We obviously need to put a name to this because you have to have a name. And we're we're going to call this Slack channel Brown Girl Angels.
Love that.
And that was that first step. But at that time, it was, okay, it's just 7 of us girlfriends looking for deal flow angel investing. That was it. It wasn't this, what it is now. It's my life. It's what I breathe. It wasn't that. It was just, okay, I'm doing what I'm doing over here, which at the time was running a marketing agency, trying to revive a fledgling brand, which we can talk about. And this was just going to be this thing on the side. And so that was kind of that first inkling of not realizing that I put something out into the universe. And then we can get into kind of how it snowballed from there.
Yeah. Tell me about, so when we talk about, you and I discussed before, this really pivotal moment for you that was actually hosting an event on a whim.
Yes.
Can you tell us about how that came about?
Yeah. So, you start to generally, as you get into anything, I mean, it could be basketball, it could be, in my case, it was financial literacy. You start to look for who are the players, and this is what we do on social. It's normal behavior now. And so I chanced upon, just like I did with my first angel investment, Brown Girl Magazine, I chanced upon Simran Kaur, and she, if you aren't familiar with her, she had a podcast that has now since been renamed called Girls That Invest. It's now called Friends That Invest. And she wrote a book because the podcast during the pandemic, which she recorded from her bedroom, was wildly successful. Social being social, saw that she was, as you do a book tour. She came to Toronto to do a book tour, and I cold DM'd her. I was like, again, what's the worst that could happen? It's part of my reaching out to the people who are in the space. So I cold DM'd her and said, hey, you're in Toronto. Is there an event, a thing? What's happening? And that led to, I'm in Toronto. I'm doing an event. And I was like, well, I'd love to celebrate you. You are a South Asian woman who wrote a book about financial literacy. I mean, my Gen X self, this didn't exist. This is an incredible thing. And it's an incredible thing for women. I mean, just broadly. Yeah. But then there's that relatability of like, wow, that's amazing to see that. So it started with a cold DM of, hey, I'd love to celebrate you. I'd love to host an event and invite women who I think would appreciate seeing someone like you doing this in such a public way and writing a book like this, which, by the way, it's a great starter guide to financial literacy. And so that event at that time, to kind of take you back to the unsexy what was in my head, was, okay, I mean, we connect, all of us have this. We see something, we see a gap, especially women. We're good at that. Like, we're good at the identifying of the pain point, but a lot of times we just don't do anything with it.
We make the perfect plan, or we think about how we could solve it.
And it sits somewhere in here. And I think that was kind of where I was at. I'm like, so there's no community like this. It's just 7 of us. I have a friend who's a super angel in Toronto who's sending some deal flow. Man, it would be cool if something like that existed. But I was really in the stage of the word that I think as women we no longer want to use. We'll just say it once. We'll not use that word, imposter syndrome, because we're so over it. I was in my fear stage. Yeah. Right? In the, this feels so big. This feels out of my scope.
I feel a little inadequate. Whether it's true or not.
Yeah. So all of that. So I was in that stage in my head, but that lived separately from what I was comfortable with, which was reaching out to a woman to say, I want to celebrate you. There's it's not a hard thing to do. And it was the feedback pre-event, leading up to it, the event itself, and post, the entire chain that made me realize something that was so pivotal, which is when you are in a state of fear, really the fear is kind of making it about yourself. Whew. Take yourself out of the picture. Are you building this for solving someone's pain point, for making someone's life better, for making a customer's life better if it's B2B? The minute you take yourself out of the picture and you think of yourself as a conduit to it, you're just the middle person. Why are you making it so much about you and what your fear? Like, build it in service. And our good friend Oprah talked about this and has been talking about this for years. Build it the minute you move into service mode, which to our detriment or as an attribute, and women are good at doing that, being and helping, and we're good at that. But in business, that actually works out. That pivot into, hey, I'm building this to solve a pain point for someone. I'm building this to solve, it's for my personal lived experience. But the minute you take yourself out of the picture and you think of yourself as a conduit, there's a reframe that helps you override those fear circuits. And for me, the event was that. The response and the feedback was so overwhelming that I was like, wow, I made this about myself. Why? People are clearly saying they need a community like this.
Yeah, I think that's such a powerful reframe, because it's true, when we are in that scared spot, it is so about ourselves in our head, and it's this really like unintentional about ourselves, right? We don't realize how much that is. Like, even me just hearing you say that, I'm like, wow, that is so true. Every time you're scared, it is making it about yourself. And I think so many women founders are building their business to serve. And so it is a nice reminder of like, hey, you actually need to get out of your own way.
Own head, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's so many beautiful ways in which people say it. For me, it's, at any given point when we're listening to a piece of content, reading a book, consuming anything, it's in that moment, in that mood, in that hour, the way someone says something resonates. So for me, with this moment that we're having, I hope someone hears that and maybe the word conduit resonates for them. Because it's not like I'm saying something that I don't, whether it's a Alex Hormozy to a Simon Sinek hasn't said before, which is, well, that's two dudes. We got to throw in a woman in there.
I was just going to point that out to you. I was like, that was off-brand for you.
We're throwing in a woman in there. Whoa!
Yeah.
Like an Emma Greed would say.
Yeah.
Is that just start, overcome the fear, remember to be in service. We didn't name drop our friend Oprah, so we're okay there. Override the fear circuit by thinking, who are you doing this for? The way a lot of these folks talk about it is understand your customer, but those might feel for many people as a very, that feels a few steps ahead. I'm not even sure I want to start the business. Oh my God, I'm so scared. Just move into service mode as step one.
What's the heart behind it?
Just what's the heart behind it?
Okay, so I want to get into the feedback that you did receive, but first I think, we had this smaller Slack channel, and then we move all the way to an in-person event with somebody from another country who's coming and visiting.
Yeah.
That feels like a lot of pressure. That feels like a big step of making it real.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are interested in creating these community spaces and events, especially right now. We're craving it so much.
Yeah.
How did you go about figuring out, tell us a little bit what the event was like, and how did you go about figuring out all these things that were probably first times, I would imagine, booking venues and all of that?
So to answer that question, I would have to confess something that I can hear my best friend in my ear saying, don't do it, but
Do it.
One line of context is I used to work on the film festival, the Toronto Film Festival, as a publicist at a film studio in my former life. I got a good fill of events. I'm not a fan of throwing events. The worst thing to say as a community builder would be that.
Right.
But I want to share that because I think there's so many of us that live in misconceptions about what it is to be in a business, which is that all the things are going to be fun.
Right.
And I think some of us live in misconceptions that it's all glamorous or it's all stuff that we must know in order to do it. Or worse, it's all stuff we really need to like. I'm building a community-based business, and is event planning the first thing I enjoy? No, but I understand the why I'm doing it. The why is what puts you kind of back in place of this is a means to an end is maybe one way to say it, but this is a necessity to serve the people that I know have given me the feedback that they wanted. So going back to your question of, okay, there's this thing in my head. Do I start this? Oh my God. And at that time there was a dear friend who still is a active angel investor in Toronto. Her name's Aarti Sharma, and I literally don't do a single podcast without referencing her. She's going to be annoyed. You're going to have to start paying me to reference me. She was, and you all need that. You need the one or two champions kind of in your corner to say, hey, this is a lot bigger than the Slack group, right? Like get out of the Slack group, as they say, get out of the group chat. And when that event, which was separate, and it happened, and I was like, okay, let's do it. When you don't like something and you don't know how to do something, lean on the people that do. This is a fundamental part of business, which is you don't have to do it all. And I understand limited budgets, but if you had to allocate spend, allocate it to the things that you absolutely have no joy doing when you're first starting, because you are literally setting yourself up to fail, to say, oh, I absolutely hate being in accounting software, but I know I need to do this. spend that little budget you have on the one thing you don't want to do because you don't want that to be the thing that stops you. And so when I wanted to do this, I cart before horse, classic me. Hey, I'd love to throw an event. Oh, wait, I forgot I don't like throwing events. Okay, let me reach out to my friend Aarti and an incredible event planner, Natasha Singh. They're both ex-Shopify. So, I mean, they've done a bazillion events. And I reached out to them. I was like, hey, so I told Simran I'd like to do an event with her. But as you guys know, I personally don't care too much about what fork and what knife go on a table. So can we do this together? And that's specific to the event. In any person's business, it can be the smallest thing. The accounting thing might be something that, someone resonates with, where they're like, yeah, wait, for me to start a business means I have to do the accounting. No, you don't.
Yeah.
Get rid of the parts, outsource the parts you don't like. And I, as someone who's a co-parenting mom, who at my home, my son's with me and I'm solo. He's old enough where I don't have a nanny. It's all me. And so one of the things that I do is translate that into my life as well, my personal life. Outsource the things you just cannot do or don't want to do. And as I'm currently in this current season as a caregiver for a parent, I'm applying the same thing. Outsource the things that you don't want to do because you don't want that to be the thing that stops you from starting.
Well, so I think depending at whatever chapter you're at too, like even early, I know for me, I started my first business in university. So I was, in my 20s and we didn't have any budget, but I think people underestimate too those mutual relationships and what can be a really big joint win. So we had, my partner's cousin was our photographer and he wanted to get other gigs as a photographer. So he needed portfolio. And I think you can really create those wins where we would say, well, what kind of stuff do you want to showcase and how can we help you? And we helped him a lot on how to run a business. I taught him a lot of the behind the scenes. And then he went and got so many gigs, even through my network. It's the first person I'm going to recommend, right? And I think that's an important detail, or your friends, right, who are helping you run the event, like looking at that personal network. And sometimes there's those different wins that doesn't always have to be putting a budget towards it too, especially if you're early and don't have it.
And for young women who are in their active stages of building network, please don't build a network only of the people that do exactly what you do. Think ahead. Have diversification in your financial portfolio, in your network, in your conversations. And I actually think that is something that's a fundamental shift we're now seeing, is that women are starting to recognize that and communities are being built around that. Collaboration is everything. Your example is perfect. And that there are always going to be people and rooms where the joy is in, hey, I need this from you, you need this from me. Let's be, and there's a really fantastic angel investor out in the Bay. Her name is Asya Bradley, and she says this recently went to an event. She's like, women, be transactional. And I think there's something that's jarring, especially for women to hear that. They're like, oh, be transactional. Oh my God, that means no. Be transactional can be an and. It's not meant to replace heart. It's not meant to replace like real relationships, but also be transactional.
I think sometimes we forget to ask or forget to hire.
To ask. And that is it. And once and it's also a great way in these early stages of a business to, kind of inadvertently gain some feedback. You started this business. And you asked your photographer friend. I mean, the fact that he was like, everyone's making that call. Is this a good use of my time? And he's like, oh, I either like you, I either believe Mallory, I either believe what she's building, that I think this is a good use of time as a win-win.
Totally.
That is feedback.
100%. And as we grew too, he was kind of going, oh, well, now I need to step up my photography. And it was really then driving even his passion for learning new skills in it, right? Okay, so when we talked about this event, right, obviously putting it on for yourself was in itself kind of a moment of making it even more real.
Yes.
But you really talked about the feedback you received as being that pivotal moment of, okay, there's something here and it's something significant. Talk to me about the feedback and how you use feedback.
Yeah. So so Natasha, Aarti and I, Aarti came on as a co-sponsor with me of this event. So we put this on to co-host of this event. So we put this on together. And it was just in the beginning stages of, okay, this is a curated room, women in finance, South Asian women in finance, tech, and founders, a few content creators. That was the mix. And from the first moment that we started to put the invites out, oh, is this something that's going to be an ongoing series? Is there a place that we can sign up for the next one? To some notes that I've kept even today, which were like, there are so many events for the content creator community, for other communities, but wow, there is not enough events for women in tech. That was one we got a lot. And this was, again, putting the timeline on this was in 2022. So those were like those initial inklings. I'll be honest. I was like, well, that's nice. Didn't really kind of, because I was like,
especially if you're not somebody who loves hosting events, you're like, that would actually be the worst case scenario.
Put me in a room. I want to have 70 new conversations with 70 new people, connect individually, pause for a second, maybe have a little bit of like sparkling water and do it all over again. That's me. I love that piece. But this goes back to what we were talking about. Find people who like complementary. Natasha and Arthi, they love this. So I would say that was that first piece of feedback, which was like people asking about what's the next one before the first one even happened.
Right.
And then just good old event planning, data that you look at. What was the drop-off rate? Every person attended. Every single person attended. And then we get into the room that's packed, and then you're having the conversations in the room of direct one-on-one. Hey, this is not being done a lot. This is really needed. What are you doing with this? What are you doing next? And then there was some woman in the room. They were just like, so what are you starting? And what is the business? And I was like, oh my God, can we just have a good night? Like, hold on. I mean, you're taking me back to that. It was overwhelmingly beautiful. And it was the post, which we see in the content too, right? It's the people who posted, hey, I've not been to something like this. I look back at it now with a business and a full, a business in momentum. And I'm like, I've referenced this before, and I'm like, wow, what an idiot. What an idiot to just be in your own way. But, it is that feedback that, look, I was talking to a founder, her name's Ashi Agarwal. She's the CTO of Cobalt Labs. She was part of the, she's building in B2B for fintech compliance. Very different. But we just had a conversation recently, and we always start with that with the founder. It's like, well, how did you decide you wanted to build a startup in compliance and fintech? Hey, I worked at a firm, and then I just saw that the, compliance was so outdated, and, had a co-founder. And I mean, that's another thing. Find someone to do this with. Find someone who shares this pain point with you. But I'm saying a lot of these things to say there's a lot of social media noise out there around just start, don't let it be perfect. Yeah, but let's put some structures around that. Otherwise, you're just burning some money. Let's put some structures around what does start. Don't let it be perfect. Yes, and here's step 1, 2, 3 to get started.
Right. And I think that's a great example where you putting out that event was the just start. But after that, you looked at it very strategically of where do we go from here? What is the feedback telling us? How do I then turn this into the real business?
And from that point, 2022 and again, this was my timeline. I took 2 years of just having conversations. And the reason for that was, by that point, I've now overridden my own internal fear circuits. And it became to start an angel investing collective of all South Asian women. My question isn't whether there's a lot of South Asian women when we're everywhere. That's fine. It's, are they willing to write the check size? Number one, are they willing to write the check size that I think is actually meaningful to a founder who's scaling? Number two, do they believe in the same investment thesis that I do? Because if you're starting an angel group, you're starting with an investment thesis that you've set, like a direction that you've set, or at least a broad direction. Well, I mean, is this, and there's another way that I say this often, which is I spent 2 years saying, is this a brown girl angel singular, or is this brown girl angels plural?
Right.
Like, that takes time, and especially when we're talking about it's rah, 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 love the event, oh my God, sign me up. Great, that's one kind of community, which now we are actively building because we continue to collect feedback. But for an angel group, which is where this whole journey started, that looks a little different. That looks like something beyond attending an event. That's putting, the often used phrase, money where your mouth is, and putting that towards South Asian female-led startups.
Yeah, I think it's a great point because being so niche down can be a great move for your business, but it also means you do have to collect that feedback in a different way because to your point, there's a lot of brown women out there, but are they in the rooms and getting the opportunities to even learn about this world? I find even just as a woman, you know, I worked in the tech startup world, but the first time you hear like Series A and all of these things, for a lot of us, it's unknown. And that's just the reality, is that the rooms have looked male and white for a very long time. And so you're also now saying, hey, does this community I want to support have access to this information? Am I willing to be the one that's bringing the information? Because I think a lot of people face that too. Do I have to educate the audience on this topic, or are they ready to go?
Everything. Yes, yes, and yes. Yes. And I think the other piece around it, to add a cultural element to it, which I'm just plugging stuff out here. We just launched our Substack. Come find us at Brown Girl Angels. But that was one of the first pieces we want to put out. Let's hold on, Brown Girl Angels. Let's talk about the fact that culturally, South Asian women, and there's actually a word in the Hindu culture and religion called Stridhan, which is that, you know, women are given gold as a way to protect. In Muslim, in the culture, in Muslim cultures, there's a lot of emphasis on providing real estate as part of marriage. It was always hard assets. It was always conservative. And I mean, gold was obviously a good investment. It's a good time to be owning gold. But what that presented when bringing up something as risky as angel investing, because it is a high risk asset class, is, wow, we're going to come up against some cultural conversations here. Are there enough women? Are there women who are saying and seeking, okay, I have the conservative, or I shouldn't say conservative, I have the hard assets, I have a portfolio that I'm now looking to diversify, and I'm coming at it because I also care from an impact point of view, or I also care from a diversification of my portfolio point of view, and I just want to now move not into protecting wealth, but also like truly, truly growing wealth, and doing that in the private markets, not just the public. So that is a specific type of person, and that takes time. And so
those cultural considerations are huge. It's also for a lot of South Asian women and men as well. I guess we'll throw them a bone.
Yeah.
But for a lot of them, there's also this cultural norm, right, of supporting parents too, right? If there's a family emergency, okay, we're funding that collectively, right? Or we're taking care of a lot of immigrant families too, right? Just taking care of the parents as they get older. And I think so a lot of women of color especially face that decision of, I would love to angel invest, but maybe I have this 10K that I feel has to go towards my parents, whatever is coming up. And and they have different considerations they're making.
And so it's a question of, are there women with disposable income that they're okay to kind of sit and go, hey, I'm not seeing this. I might see it, you know, triple and might see it go to nothing.
Right.
So yeah, that kind of going back to what we were talking about, post-event, for that to become a reality was collecting feedback. Talked to a founder recently who currently has a full-fledged luxury event planning business, and you know, she reached out to me recently. She was like, hey, I see a gap in the market for this from the luxury event planning that I do. But hey, can you fill out the survey for me? I just want to see what you think of this. Perfect. Yes.
Love that.
Do that. And that's as simple as it needs to be. For me, it was my 2 steps were, okay, let me just start to post some content on the good old internet. Let me just get on Instagram and start posting some content, see who shows up. And the second thing was having these individual conversations and starting to just put some feelers out, and then also learn. Because that's the other thing I think that, for me, this was part of my little fear bucket was, oh, I don't come from this, I don't have this, here's all the things I don't. And one of the big pivotal moments out of that event was, wait, if I had all that, then I'm not building for someone that my avatar anymore. I am the avatar for this business. Why am I trying to be something else, but then I'm building a different business?
Right.
And this really matters in community businesses and community-based businesses where a lot of times you are the avatar. What you're doing is saying, I'm the avatar, but there's only one of me. Right. Are there multiple? And in my case, that was a big shift, which was, oh, wait, why am I trying to say all the things I'm not? I am not, and I'm glad I'm not.
Because I think sometimes when we step into these leadership roles by accident of running a business in that space. It feels like now it's like we started them because we are the avatar. And then we feel like, oh, I'm supposed to now be the thought leader and the leader in this space. So I have to know what's going on. But the truth is I started this because I wanted those same answers or I needed that same problem solved.
Now, the thing I would, the nuance, because God, that's something that's a lost art on social. So let's talk about nuance because we have time to talk about it. The nuance of that is, and Brene Brown actually on a podcast with Adam Grant talks about, what happened to the art of saying I'm a learner, and that we've gone into this world of I'm an expert, and then you dig and you're like, but wait, you've been doing this for 5 minutes. We all have a way in which we maybe do feel we're an expert in 5 minutes. I think there is a beauty to saying, I'm learning. Will you learn alongside me? Mm-hmm. Now, the nuance of that is when you build something, you still need to lead. You still need to have a point of view.
Yeah.
You still need to have a sense of where you're shepherding and where you're going. It's going into unexplored territory, but you still need to be the person saying, hey, let's go right, not left.
Yeah, I always say it's like being a scientist in a lab. Imagine a scientist tried one thing and it didn't work. And they were like, well, that's a wrap on my thesis. Exactly. Like, it just sounds so silly, right? Or I always say too, like the baby takes its first steps. We all cheer and then it falls. It inevitably falls. And we don't go, oh, well, that baby's never going to be a walker. Right? Like we don't even, it doesn't cross our mind.
Everything we're talking about could be whittled down to, we should all just own some baby energy.
Yeah. We just got to
all just got to have some baby energy.
Throw some food around.
Exactly. Throw some food around, have a tantrum, get up anyway.
Yes.
Maybe cry a little and be like, hey, I'm happy in 5 minutes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
that's going to be my new.
I love that.
Having some baby energy.
Yeah, I always say, I'm like, you wouldn't call the toddler a little loser baby if that happened. You just cheer about the first steps,
exactly.
Right?
Oh
and
my
when
God.
we think of those different scenarios, it sounds so silly. But then for ourselves, we're like, I'm going to try this for the first time, right?
Yeah.
Going to the gym, you don't expect to be able to squat 300 pounds when you're in the gym for the first time. You pick up the smallest dumbbell and you put in some reps.
God, I think about that a lot, about why are so many of us conditioned, and I catch myself in the same thing too. Like I'm conditioned to, think, oh, I want to be able to do it all right now. How come I'm not there yet? And, oh God, social media really adds a lot of noise to that. And I think the reason we're conditioned and we have to work really hard to decondition is because we live in the West especially, we live in an instant gratification society. Mm-hmm. And that's what's really celebrated now, fortunately, because there's space for multiple voices, that we are now saying, slow. What are the phrase? I mean, that's the lovely thing about social. They always put a nice package and an aesthetic phrase on everything. What is it? Slow, intentional living, or But I joke, but I love that because it's essentially putting some frameworks around. Here's the other way to do it.
Yeah. So talk to us about that. When you were collecting that feedback, how do you balance knowing, hey, I'm taking time to learn and collect feedback versus the part of you that's maybe going, oh, well, I can't do the next step yet. I don't have enough feedback. I think a lot of us are guilty of that.
Yes, we are. And that, I think, is it's an ongoing dance. It's an ongoing dance of, okay, I think there's a bit of intuition, I would say. There's a bit of intuition that comes with just talking a lot to people, collecting feedback of, okay, I'm noticing a gap here, or I think this would be interesting here. I'll give you an example of a conversation I had with a woman who was like, hey, I'm really mission aligned with what you're building. I'd love to intern with you. She said this as a passing comment. She was like, yeah, I really love your Instagram. I love what you guys are doing. And, I love that you kind of made that pivot from just not only being about for creators and founders, but yeah, it's so amazing. I could have just been like, oh, thanks so much. And continue, wait, you thought it was about creators. Tell me more. And it's the diving in and being relentless in listening, which I think is a skill set we could just use in life generally. Failing terribly at doing that with my 13-year-old, note to self. But I just go into the other state of like, no. Yeah. So, I think it's the relentless intentional listening at the early stages and all through your business that really matter. And I saw where I didn't do that. So not here preaching on the holy throne. I didn't do that in my previous business. And to just touch upon that quickly, I was building at a time when the real estate market was, dipping a little. I was busy building a business of social media subscriptions for real estate agents when all I had to do was talk to a few to say, yeah, we think of social media for real estate agents as a disposable cost. It's the first thing to go. It's the first thing on the chopping block. Dang, that would have been good to know.
Yeah, at this point, you probably have a website, an email list, all these different products, right? A lot of us, we build quietly. We think we have to do this big reveal. And then it's like having a concert and you forgot to sell tickets and then you open the curtains and you're like, where is everybody, right? Because you forgot to talk about it and actually collect that feedback.
Yes. And it might, to someone listening, it might be like, yeah, I got the point. Okay, collect feedback. But I think you and I mean, especially given what you shared with your experience, we're really driving this home because it's sometimes the simple stuff that gets overlooked. Mm-hmm. And because we get an idea, we are excited about it, we want to just run with it. I'm of the intentional planning type. I mean, to everything I'm saying, there's someone who's going to be like, don't collect the feedback, they'll understand, and just go, and a bit of male bro energy, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. You can cut that out.
No, I think there's like different things that a lot of us need to hear. And I always say like the most extroverted advice is what we hear the most because those are the people out there sharing it.
Yes.
But there's so many, and not even to say you're introverted, but like there's so many introverted entrepreneurs or just different approaches to entrepreneurship that we don't hear from enough because it's not inherently loud. It's not the people that are like more inclined to share on stuff.
Who are already now like content creator founder already.
Yeah.
Because that's a space where a lot of people are like, hey, can I do this without having, a social media presence? Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, so, and there's so many social media coaches that talk about this too. Is that the thing that scares you? Okay, well, now especially, use AI, use 11 labs, the whole don't like AI, set that aside. There's ways, do faceless. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can get around doing the things in a different way that serves you. And that's where that's the other thing, right? It's like, hey, there's a lot of noise, listen, but be selective in what you take. Simon Sinek, actually, can you tell I've been listening to a lot of his pods lately. He's a go, he's great. But, it was the one with him and Emma Grede that they talked about this, where he's like, problem now isn't advice. It's just lying for free everywhere. Right. How do you, and I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he's like, how do you kind of say, oh, well, that advice works for me? It's knowing and doing a check-in on, well, what am I like?
Yeah, and how do you take the root feedback, I think? Because for someone, they might go, well, I don't need 2 years of conversations, but maybe just hearing you say that makes them realize, oh, I haven't done any feedback, or I need to do feedback in this one form. Yeah. I think something that's really cool that I have a lot of admiration for is how old you were at starting this venture too. And I would love to talk about that because I think as you talk about, having this slower approach, this more intentional, I think that resonates with, honestly, I want to say founders over 30 even. I think that very early 20s is the go, go, go. Some people carry that energy later. Yeah. But I think especially women 30 and up, we resonate with that. Okay, how do I get more intentional? How do I approach this differently? What was it like? Tell us a bit about, you are a mom and how old, what was that personal situation at the time?
Yeah. So I've been co-parenting as a solo mom. And for those not familiar with like that jargony, that just means I'm on my own, but I co-parent quite actively with my son's dad. And I've been, in that kind of setup since 2014. So, kind of been at this a bit. However, it's a very, being a solo co-parenting mom as being a mom itself is its own job. It's a full-time job, and one that I really had to take into consideration if I were to pivot out of and pivot for a good reason. My previous business was fledgling at best. But if I wanted to move into a new business, is that, what could that actually look like? What is the speed at which I'm willing to build or not build? I think for me, being 47 at the time, I don't actually think that was as much of a factor. And I want to say that to say something that's been ruminating in my head in a broad way about this, kind of being, now I'm 50, but, being a 40-something and building is sometimes just do the thing without talking about the thing and thinking too much about the thing and ruminating about the
meta
thing.
of it all.
Yeah. And it's like I didn't spend any time being like, oh, but I'm doing this at 47. Now, I'm not discounting that because I come from I'm comfortable in life. I don't know why I was struggling to say that. I was going to go with, or as I like to joke with my friends, I'm like, I'm Dollarama rich. I was like, not quite what
you feel safe in
I
like
feel
making
safe
these
in
risks
making
and
these
decisions.
Yeah. So I want to be cognizant of like, it is a very real decision to make, but I would say the decision making for me was more around being a parent and being very present to my only little guy. And that was a bigger factor for me than age. But now, understanding that there is a thread of conversation around an amazing time that we're in, that women are starting businesses at 50. There's so many names we can throw out there of women who are. And I mean, the popular ones, just for people who don't, okay, Vera Wang or
right.
Charlotte Tilbury or Bobby Brown. I mean, there's a lot of them in consumer, but I think sometimes it makes for good content and we create a story out of something that we don't need to. Having said that, what I also think is really important to say is we live in a time where what 50 looks like has changed drastically. Mm-hmm. Would I have given that more thought if I associated being 47 with looking like what was her name? Ruth from Golden Girls
right,
or whatever.
Right.
Ruth, was her name Ruth from Golden Girls. I don't know why I'm struggling to say that. I think a lot of it is the temperature of the market and the time we're in. And that is actually also very relevant for building businesses too. And then another factor to take into consideration when you're building something is the market timing right for this. Right. I think Brown Girl Angels in 2014 wouldn't have made sense. I think it would have been Brown Girl Angel.
Right. And there would have been a lot more, what are you doing and who is it for? And now people see it and they go, I mean, I know when we met, I saw what you're doing. I went, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, needed, love it, on board.
I don't know if I would have said that 10 years ago. Yeah. And I've been down this road with my first company, Lux Story Media, which taken it back to like 2014, where we started a company that was producing travel content for hotels and tourism boards. Understand that we were building that. Now, everyone kind of clutch your pearls. This was pre-Facebook video. I know that world existed. I would go to conferences and travel trade conferences and go up to said DMO, a destination marketing organization, and be like, hey, I want to talk to you about video. They're like, we're working on our website. What do you mean by video? Why would we do a video? Like, there is something to be said about timing the market. Not there is something. It is very important to time the market right. So I think for me, the market being that there's already women who've proven the path, who've laid the path down, so to speak, of here's what you can look like at 50. Fabulous, thriving, wonderful, beautiful. I mean, here we are on a random February, just telling myself nice things. But, I think that's why it was a bit of a non-factor. And I say that not to just make this a singular story. I say that to say, don't build it up in your head.
Exactly.
It's 50. You're not dead.
No.
And you have this is what we look like.
Experience too, to actually make those decisions of what you want the business to look like and the kind of impact you want to have.
And in this day and age, you can do it at 50, at 40 something, and still be intentional. Because that's another thread that I hear a lot, which is when you're starting at 40 something, do you feel a pressure that it has to be a rocket ship right away? No, I don't, because I don't know, I can't predict the things that will happen, but I'm looking at Halle Berry over there, and she had a whole career, and she's like, hey, I'm just getting started. That's one of my favorite phrases when you look at pop culture. And I reference pop culture because I do think, a lot of people just take a lot of influence from pop culture and, public figures. And we're seeing a lot of that now. These are women. Serena Williams, another great example. I'll never forget this. And a part of me was like, and I joke with my friends about this, she had just started Serena Ventures, incredible VC firm that she started, and she had retired from tennis, and she then also started Win, her makeup brand. And I remember she did a press conference or something somewhere, and she was like, yeah, she's like, I'm just getting started. And I was like, dear God, if you're just getting started with, I don't even know how many Grand Slams, we're all screwed.
But I love the way that it shifts our perspective to go, okay, so maybe I was just looking to achieve her first milestone, and now if she feels she's just getting started, what does that mean for me?
This is it. And so when that trickles down, now, there's accounts out there for, hey, I'm 50 something and people say I can't wear this, but I do it anyway. I'm like, really? People are still saying that? Do we need okay, I'm slagging people here, but do we need an account dedicated to a woman who's 50 saying I'm going to wear what I want? Okay, but that's your truth. Maybe you come from a world where that's, maybe you were slagged. But I would rather tell women who are looking to start things in their 40s and 50s and beyond, don't let that be the factor. You have a lot of other things to worry about with starting a business. Minimize that about whether you should start. Mm-hmm. That's not really, it's a non-factor. Let's not make that a big thing.
I love that. When you were getting into this, I would love to know, what I really like actually about your story is that it's still very fresh, right?
Yes.
This is only, now we're going to do the live math. 4 years since the very first idea here.
Yeah.
And I would love to hear, even in small ways, how do you feel like you've changed as a founder when you think back to that cold DM to our friend Sim? How are you different now from then?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I could answer that from, just the acumen, right? Just the financial acumen. When I think of baby me, first angel investment, figuring out what a SAFE was, and which a SAFE is do I talk about what a SAFE? Okay, a SAFE is a standard agreement for future equity. It's basically, think of it like it's almost like a promissory note from a founder saying, I'm not giving you actual equity because the company's so early, but when I actually have shares to give you, you have this percentage of it. That's what a SAFE is. I didn't know that. So from that to where I am now, from just now multiple angel investments and going through what is a very real experience right now of having an investment that just went to zero, but having another investment that just tripled in valuation. I'm living both, and that's the nature of angel investing. So I think it's also lived experience in the past 4 years of seeing the life cycle of your investments, because that's something that is a very real thing with angel investing. Is it's not a 1 to 2 year thing. You have to kind of see it through its life cycle. On a personal note, I think it means a lot to me to be a boy mom and to have my son have a front row seat to building something that is so intentionally for women. And I don't hammer that on the head with him, especially as a teen. He's like, yeah, okay. But I do believe osmosis and just seeing that this is what mommy's building, and having two parents that are entrepreneurs, I think there's some value to that. So that's something that means a lot too. And the incredible friendships in the business, the woman, and answering the question. It isn't, FYI, I found out, it's not Brown Girl Angel. It's apparently so many. And it's apparently so many women who are in this stage of wanting financial diversification, of wanting to create a financial story that is about the choices they made. 4 years later, I've answered the question. And now I'm answering more, which is apparently founders who are South Asian women are enjoying being part of a lot of these collaborative communities. There's so many wonderful ones in Canada and the US and beyond. But there's a comfort blanket to what Brown Girl Angels is. And that's what I really refer to it often that way. We're a comfort blanket. We're not just a relatability. Relatability's nice. We're where you take the bra off. You come in the door, shoes are kicked off, and you're like, oh, you get me. That's what Brown Girl Angels is. And for me, that's the next kind of answer that I needed, that I didn't know, because I started building this as an angel group for accredited investors who are investing in South Asian female-led startups. We make a few investments, we chat a little bit, review some deals, which is kind of how a lot of traditional angel groups are. And then we go about our lives and we get back again and convene together in a month. This has evolved to something so much more beautiful, bigger, inclusive, and it's my life's work. It's yeah, I mean, I've answered a lot. And I think one of the things that I've also answered is, oh, this is what alignment feels like. It wasn't social media subscription services for real estate agents. Huh.
Shocking.
Shocking. It was this and this. And I was listening to, man, I'm giving her a lot. I mean, clearly it's such a tell that I've been listening to that all of Emma Greed's pod episodes. I mean, she's the best in class. But I was listening to a founder of the Shade Room, which is now one of the preeminent, pop culture sites, and they rival numbers of the New York Times. And, she was like, oh, I just built this because this is what I like. I built something that's so in alignment. And she's like, the feedback I got initially early was, of course you would build this. Of course you would do that. This has always been you. And that's what I received. So there's something beautiful about being in alignment 4 years later. So yeah,
I love that.
That's amazing. It's an amazing place to be.
I think it's really beautiful that the first event that really kicked it off was actually just you, I'm supposed to say like innocently looking to celebrate. And I think even when we look at, South Asian culture, like that's so intertwined, that celebration, that feeling of family and all of that. And I think that's so beautiful that that's actually what really kicked off the business.
Isn't it?
You. It wasn't, hey, I see an opportunity to host an event around this person that's coming. It's just, hey, I want to celebrate you.
Yeah. And it's so perfectly who I am.
Yeah.
It's anybody who knows me.
Yeah, it's you in a nutshell.
It's me in a nutshell. There was the other day, my friend got into my car and Apple Maps was on, and I have an Indian woman's voice, and she's like, only you would find the Indian woman with an Indian accent dictating and spelling Young Street as Yonji. She's like, it's comforting. And I was like, yeah, it's like my mom's dictating, but without the guilt parenting attached.
Yeah, I love that.
So there you go. But yeah.
Okay, two final questions for you. If people want to get involved with Brown Girl Angels or find out more about what you guys do, where can we get that information?
browngirlangels.com is a great place to start to explore some of the storytelling around the angels that are currently in the group. And the next place is LinkedIn, Instagram. I mean, entry these days is online. If you want to reach out and you're not in the online spaces, feel free to reach out to us at info@browngirlangels.com. I still read every single email that comes through because, as I said, collecting feedback never stops.
Okay, I'm sneaking in a follow-up to that because I think it's important. For the non-South Asian women, whether that's white men, women of other cultures, what can they do to get involved?
I'm so glad you asked this question because with a dual mission like what we have, which is seeing more South Asian women angel invest, but the second part, which is funding South Asian female-led startups, I mean, money don't got a color. So we have had conversations with whether it's family offices and allies. A viable startup is a viable startup. So if you're interested in the deal flow, we have monthly meetings where we share deal flow. And we are also now hosting events. We just hosted an event that's just a female founders and funders event because end of day, something that's really important that if I could just get this out to say is we're called Brown Girl Angels, but we don't build an exclusion of men. That is ridiculous to me to think that way. We build alongside. And that can be a beautiful experience. It doesn't have to be we build Brown Girl Angels because we don't like. No, it's we're building Brown Girl Angels for women because women need spaces where they feel related to and seen. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we don't welcome men. And there's a lot of programming that we have coming up this year that includes men in the conversation because it is okay to say they've been at this a little bit longer. They've put out a playbook. We're not looking to copy the playbook. Yeah. We're looking to adapt it for us.
Yeah, and we move faster and further, the more people can be on board with the same missions.
This is it. And so, and especially in venture and angel, I mean, South Asian men are leading the charge in that. And so it would be ridiculous to be like, nope, we don't want your capital. That's the whole second part of the mission is missed. So for allies, for South Asian men, for South Asian husbands who think, yeah, my wife should angel invest. I've had those conversations. Please reach out at info@browngirlangels.com or on LinkedIn, because apparently that's where everyone's hanging out these days. But I've been receiving some really great messages there, and I'd like to continue to have those conversations to build something if you're in the weeds, if you're not sure, if you have a full-time other something and you don't know whether you should tackle this or, tack this on, it's the theme of everything we've talked about, which is start small. Start by asking questions to those you trust and then expand it slowly and expand it slowly. If that's the speed you want to work at. If you're there, and I've had these conversations, and I say this from conversations that we have with our very active small business community, which is, oh my God, if I actually tell someone and ask the question, they know I'm actually thinking of building something, and oh my God, that even I don't want to do. Okay, then just start on Reddit. See if people are talking about this. Start there. No one has to know who you are. But if you have an idea or have identified a gap or see something that maybe already exists, like a great example of this is Ayurvedic beauty brands. There's many small businesses. I mean, Ayurvedic beauty brands exist. There's others building more. And that's just their passion that they want to build this. Mm-hmm. Still collect feedback on what would you like to see? What do you feel is missing? I would say start there. And the reason for that, let me provide that framework, is action, however small, gets you out of inaction. Action builds the confidence battery. Consciously, subconsciously, doesn't matter. It is action that does it. But what's been glamorized is big action. Mm-hmm. It can be small. It can even be smaller. It can be, here's all the things I'm good at. Here's all the things I don't like. If I wanted to spend a lot of time doing something, what would it be? That's a start. And I have a family member that I'm talking to about this very actively, who I sat there and, I'm now the magnet for, hey, I have some ideas. And she was like talking about and I want to give these examples so they feel real and relatable, hopefully. She was talking so much about her interior design and how much she loves it and how she went to a friend's house, the neighbor's house, and she was like, oh, I'll help you with your interior. They were like, you're so good at this. And she's like, yeah. And maybe 5-10 minutes later, she's like, God, I could really use doing something different. I'm like, do you see? She was like, what do you mean? Do you see what you like? And then that's sometimes the light bulb, is just, what are the things that give you joy? And the reason for that, and I will say that, and there's a lot of people who are like, no, don't build what's your passion, only build what's monetizable. And there's definitely metal to that. But what people say when you hear people speak on that, what they mean is don't build a passion and just build it just for you, which circles back to what we're talking about, collect feedback. And I think for me, and especially in mission-aligned businesses, socially driven businesses, impact, that becomes very, very crucial when you're building community, which I feel these days almost every founder is. They're building a community as a way to have you enter their world, to experience their service or their product, especially if it's consumer facing. The feedback becomes incredibly crucial.
And it might just take a few pivots to figure out the monetization. It doesn't mean that the passion project should go away, right? It's just about those tweaks, get the feedback and make the change.
I mean, the next steps to that are exactly what you're saying. Be flexible. Mm-hmm. Don't be too married to an idea, but then have a sense of intuition around it. And then part 2, 3, 4 is like, how do you build the intuition? Well, you build the intuition by just reading, consuming, doing, and living and breathing. And in doing that, one day you stop, you look back and you're like, oh, I'm not scared anymore. Mm. That boat has sailed because I'm already in it. And so I think it's just do scared, or do one small thing because that tiny little thing doesn't feel as scary, and then build from that.
Yeah, you're not a loser baby if you fall over.
You're not a loser baby if you fall over. Baby energy for 2026.
Well, thank you so much for sharing the behind the scenes of that story.
Thank you. This was a good... We are so guilty of this, I am sure, which is when you're in momentum and you're building forward, sometimes you don't stop to look back, and your email inbox doesn't let you do that actually as well. So it is so nice to sit down, because this, as much as I'm saying it out to the world, I'm also saying it back to myself to be like, look how far you've come.
Look how far you've come.
Little scary baby, look how far you've come.
I love that. Thank you.
Thank you.